So this video is about sort of the whole process of workflow, and I think there might be enough in this for you to start making the Gantt chart, although I don't cover the Google Apps Gantt chart process, but it kind of builds up to that. So what we're going to talk about today is these 4 issues, sort of defining the broad outcomes, which we've already started a bit, developing work breakdown structure to obtain the outcomes, and then developing activity detail for the items that you need to work on, and then building a Gantt chart. Again, we're not going to spend a lot of time on the building the Gantt chart part. We're going to spend that later. So looking at broad outcomes, we've talked about this when we talked about, what are the things you want to accomplish in your projects. So I'm going to use an example of a trip to Disneyland. So when I think about, if you guys remember that charter that had roommates are going to be going to Disneyland. So when I think about the trip, I think about what are the broad areas that we need to be thinking about. And what I did is I developed transportation, lodging, food, tickets, and other. So those are sort of broad things. We got to get there. We got to have a place to stay. We got to eat, and we have to get tickets. And then there might be some other things we need to think about. So when I went ahead and developed the specific ways that I would know whether this was accomplished, for transportation, I said everyone arrives at Disneyland and returns home safely, and the time in the car should be less than 10 hours. So somehow or other we should be a little bit efficient about this, and we should be safe. So lodging, everyone sleeps comfortably. Now that might seem like, how could I actually measure that? But my plan is that if I could ask everybody afterwards, was that a comfortable situation where you were sleeping? This is a little bit, might not be exact, but it is one thing that that I was thinking for in looking at the lodging. Food, that no one is hungry, meaning that we have enough, and that food costs less than $50 a day. Tickets are in hand before entering the park, and the cost is less than $200 each. So this is like for a 3-day kind of thing. So we want to get it done before we get there, and we want it to have a certain cost. And then the other things is no one is surprised by unexpected issues. I'm not sure what that means actually right now, but I wanted to make sure that I included something that was sort of other-ish. So now that I have this, what I'm going to do is start making a work breakdown structure. And all that really is how am I going to accomplish this? What are the steps I need to do to accomplish it? Now, sometimes the level of the steps is a little bit confusing, because we could just say, okay, Sue is in charge of transportation, and she needs to get us there safely. That would be one sort of activity if we just assigned that to Sue and she got it done. But in reality, there's probably some sub-steps associated with that. And how far to break that down is a question. It's an art. How are you going to determine what to break down? Here's an example of a work breakdown structure for a personal computer. So what they did is they broke it down into all the different hardware specifications. And they didn't include software on this, but they could have, because it says more. But you can see they said, oh yeah, they do. Software, keyboard, storage units, microprocessors, so there's other, maybe the mouse, etc. Oh, that mouse keyboard. So then under storage, it says floppy optical hard. And then, so those are the 3 ones they want to be thinking about. Now under the hard, they need to think about, is there a motor, circuit boards, chassis, read-write head? So each of those then have what they call work packages. Now we might call these activities. In fact, we are going to be calling them activities. But in order to make the circuit boards, there's actually 7 different work packages. Somebody is going to have to make 7 different circuit boards. And this is the way you put together a work breakdown structure. Then once you get that, then you start assigning those work packages to people, and then people can start working. Let's look at, I think that Excel is going to be a very useful way of doing this. So I'm going to skip to Excel on my thing. So what I've done here is I created a hierarchy chart. And the way I got that is I went to Smart Art and then Hierarchy. And it created this for me. And the way it creates is actually, if you look here, it comes up with sort of an outline, an indented outline, and then it creates it all on its own, which is going to be super helpful for you making your work breakdown structure, because you can change it along the way. So what I'm going to do here is, you can see that on my on this I actually have food, transportation, tickets, housing. I have all 4 of the categories, but remember I said I wanted to add another. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I'm going to add another. So I just add it, move it over, and I'm going to call it other. So you can see it appeared there. Now it's giving me another one. I don't want another one though. I just want one other. Oh, uh-oh. This is not good. I'm going to undo this. So I just want to do other here. So now what happened is food is at the same level as as the trip to Disneyland, which I don't want. I want to move food to the level of transportation. So I'm just going to highlight that and I'm going to move it all over. I think that fixed it. Yeah. I'm going to go to other and I'm going to say I'm going to add another category, but it's going to be under there, which is sort of maybe liability. Maybe I'll say contact information. Those are the sort of the 2 that I want underneath the... Oh, it happened again where I moved food over. Let's undo this. Contact info. Okay. So now we have these 2 things under this. So I just added another category. And what happens is that each of them, once I go down farther, so like food, I broke it down to on the road, in the park, outside the park, tickets to the park. And then on the road, I broke it down into plan, purchase, and store. So each of these can then be assigned to one person. So I'm going to particularly look at this item of store when I go back to PowerPoint. I'm going to talk about then what do you do once you create a workdown breakdown structure? You develop an activity detail. And what that looks like is this is one example of the activity detail where you have all the information about the activity and actually fill it out and then someone can use it. So this is for the trip to Disneyland. This is store food in the car. That's the name of the activity. I have the person who's responsible. The description is this requires that the storage of food is compact and temperature controlled on the road. We will need to determine the quantity and space needed, purchase the container, and pack it for travel. So in order to do the predecessor is we need to plan for the food on the road. Then that thing that comes after that is we need to pack the car. Some materials needed, there's no materials needed, but there is some labor associated with the computations. And then other requirements is that someone needs to buy the container. So it didn't necessarily say that, it says purchase the container, but it is a required requisite. And the equipment needed is the cooler and the container. The cost limit is $30. We estimated it'll take 2 days and there's no other comments. So that kind of brings you then, once you've done this for every single work package or activity detail, so everything at the lowest level here, once you've done that, then you can actually start to build a Gantt chart. And we will look at that